I've always heard that into each lawyer's life a little rain must fall. Well, in my life, the International Investors Holding Corporation was a kind of deluge. A gentleman named Rex Marsden, of dubious reputation, had made himself owner of about 12% of the stock, and by doing so had put himself in the driver's seat. I had to obey an urgent summons for a meeting in his offices.
I'm so glad you found it possible to come, Herb.
You made it sound mandatory.
This our lawyer?
Mr. Maris, Mr. Marsden.
The new controlling interest. What's the reason for the urgency, Mr. Marsden?
I just wanted to meet you.
Is that all?
All.
Mr. Marsden, you pulled me from an important conference. I have people waiting for me. Goodbye.
Maris, you like the retainer you get? I just well tell you I don't like you intellectual gentleman type lawyers. I like fighting lawyers, and I like my employees to fight for me.
Is that all now?
That's all. I'm just meeting all my employees, but don't mistake me. When a man works for me and I say jump, by golly, that man jumps.
I'm neither your employee nor International Holdings. I'm your legal consultant. If you have any legal affairs to discuss, I'll be available.
Know something, Considine? I like that man. He's got guts.
I'm not sure he likes you.
He will when the chips are down. It means money in his pocket. You used to run this outfit before I hornswoggled you out of it. You like me?
I have to.
Exactly, Considine.
I like it better when my visitors are announced.
I'm sorry, I'm in a hurry. You have the Maloney contract?
I've just been going through them, familiarizing myself.
You drew them. You ought to know what's in them.
It might surprise you to know this isn't the only contract I've drawn up in the past year. Now sit down.
You don't bully, do you?
Not in important things.
This Maloney deal, I don't like it. It was made before I took over International. It's a deal to finance a housing tract operation for Maloney.
You advanced the token $25,000 payment the first of last month.
That's right. I don't care about that. What I don't like is the $100,000 this month, the $300,000 next month, and so on until we have over $3 million tied up in it.
It's a secure investment. What don't you like about it?
I don't like our cut. Put out all that money at interest. I want a big hunk of the profits for International Holding. I want to improve this deal.
The contract's already in being.
I want it changed.
Mr. Marsden, when I draw a contract, I always make sure it's equitable and unimpeachable. You can't change this contract without Mr. Maloney's consent.
I just told you that I want it changed. And I know how. Now, if we don't advance him the $100,000 due next week, he'll be broke. He won't be able to pay his workers. He'll come crying for help.
Or his lawyer will come with a summons.
I know these contractor builders. You don't. Maloney's got his shirt tied up in this deal. Over $200,000 his first money. He'll have to see it our way or lose that shirt.
All I can do is give you advice, but I can't make you follow it. But I am advising you that if you breach this contract, it can cost International a fortune in damages.
Suppose there was some important fact not disclosed to us when we first signed that contract?
Well, if the non-disclosure amounted to fraud, then I'd say we could declare the contract void ab initio.
All right. Maloney has a criminal record, spent 5 years in jail. How's that?
Well, that'd be fine, except every person around the table knew about it. He told us himself.
You don't want to improve our deal.
Let us say, Mr. Marsden, that I'm advising you as my client not to do anything illegal or immoral.
You take care of the law, Maris. I'll worry about the morality.
Now, just a minute.
Miss Brent. All right. Yes?
That was Rex Marsden, wasn't it?
I don't see how it concerns you, Miss...
Maloney. Mrs. Rock Maloney.
You shouldn't have come here.
There is a rumor that International Holding is going to withhold the money due my husband next month. It would destroy him.
I can't discuss my client's affairs, Mrs. Maloney.
I know you represent International, but I also have heard what kind of man you are. You even defend criminals sometimes when
I'm a lawyer. I only represent one client in a case. Now, if you please...
But you're a good lawyer, Mr. Maris, and my husband is a good man. Every cent that he's saved for 20 years is in this. His life...
Mrs. Maloney, I merely draw up the contracts. I don't operate the business. Now, if you'll go back and tell your husband it didn't do any good for you...
Rock doesn't know that I came here to plead. Please don't let him know.
All right, Mrs. Maloney. I won't let him know. Now, you just leave the law to the lawyers, hmm?
I'm sure you'll think this over. You'll find us in the telephone directory. If you should want to see us, we're at the Georgian Apartments. That's the first house on the right on Westgate. Here, I'll write it down for you.
I know the Georgian Apartments, and I won't be there. Miss Brent, if anyone else shows up, announce them or throw them out.
It's funny. You look out your window, you see a couple of college kids in their silly clothes. They hop in a car, whiz off on two wheels, and you tell yourself everything's right with the world.
Maybe it is, Rock.
Oh, but then you tell yourself the whole world stinks because it's full of thieves. You're in your own home with your wife of 12 years who just betrayed you by going over to the opposition.
Oh, don't say betrayed, Rock.
Now, what would you call it after I told you not to?
Everybody says Maris is a decent person. I was only trying to help.
Help? That's great. B, all you did was succeed in convincing them I hold a weak hand. Now I can't even hope to bluff them into thinking I can...
Yes? Just a minute. It's for you.
Thanks. Maloney. Yeah. That's right. Well, I guess it can't hurt. Yeah. Fella says if I want to lick this international holding situation, I should meet him downstairs outside the garage.
Well, I don't see what can be done on a street corner.
Things couldn't be any worse than they are right now. Look, Pia. I'm sorry. Right now, I could clip myself on the chin. You're beautiful, you're lovable, and you're loyal. I don't really know why you married me in the first place.
Oh, all right. Go on your way. But you hurry back, huh?
Sure.
Call the police. Now.
You, Mr. Maloney?
That's right. You must be Mr. Cruz.
Come on, fight!
What are you doing?
Come on, fight!
Stop it!
Hold it! Just stand still, mister. You can't weigh more than 110 in his winter overcoat.
Huh? Just a minute. Morning, Constable.
Morning, Lieutenant.
Hey, what's your hurry?
I'm crowded.
Funny. I thought you represented International Holding.
I do.
Funny.
What?
Well, a lawyer came up here about a half an hour ago and laid a complaint for International against the client. Conspiracy, obtaining money under false pretenses, and fraud.
Who's the client?
Maloney. Well, Maloney.
Maloney.
Yeah, poor guy's really had it. You know, we got him in the can already for a little fracas yesterday, assault with deadly weapons.
Deadly weapon?
Yeah, he was a pro when he was a kid. You know when a pro uses these.
Deadly weapons. I'll see you, Lieutenant.
Jim? Jim? Beauty part of it is he was in jail 20 years ago for a homicide. They're all in a bar. He killed a man with his fist, and he was a professional fighter.
Whose idea was the street fight yesterday?
Just purest fortunate coincidence.
But it wasn't a coincidence that your house attorney laid a complaint with the prosecutor's office against Maloney this morning.
Let's call that being up on our toes. Maris. I've been in and out of law cases for years. I learned one thing: privileged communication. You, as our lawyer, cannot reveal any knowledge against our interest gained while you were acting for us.
Mr. Considine, you're still president of the International Holding Corporation. Do you go along with this course of action?
No, I don't.
Considine, I have enough muscle on the board to terminate your presidency. We both understand that, don't we? Now, the great thing is it don't make any difference whether Maloney is convicted or not, as long as he's arraigned and held for a few weeks. That'll keep him from completing those foundations by the date set in the contract. He'll be in breach of contract. We'll simply foreclose and take over the whole deal.
Mr. Marsden, unless you withdraw your complaint of fraud and conspiracy, I'm resigning this account as of now.
And I suggest you remember this. Every single thing you heard or saw in this building remains privileged and private.
A lawyer's job is a very touchy one. From now on, the theory of privileged communication would have to govern me. I would have to discover facts, starting from right now, out of my own knowledge. I couldn't use anything that was in my head as of yesterday. There's a very fine point of distinctive morality as to where law starts and justice leaves off. You seem to take a great interest in this case, Lieutenant.
Fact is, Counselor, I sort of took a liking to Maloney. He's my kind of guy. He fought his way up from the streets.
Oh, that means you were waiting for me outside of the courtroom yesterday.
Well, that'll be Maloney now. Herb, why don't you go on and talk to him alone? I'm sure you'll get a lot more out of him. I'll be in my office.
All right. Well, Mr. Maloney?
Mr. Maris, what are you doing here?
Oh, let's call it curiosity. But I would like you to answer one question, please.
Despite your affiliation?
Past affiliation.
Question, huh? I might answer it.
Did you hit that little man?
Yes, I did. But only after he took about 50 punches at me. And Mr. Maris, the part that could be called a strange coincidence is the fact the police cars were there just about the time he hit the sidewalk. But I have a hunch you know this better than I.
Thanks. All right. What?
Did you throw over a huge account to take on Maloney?
Slight difference, Lieutenant. I threw over an octopus to pull a thorn from the paw of a lion.
Shakespeare, yes.
Shaw, spelled not with a P.
I had a little free time, Costa, so I guess I did some of your work for you. It's true. It's all with deadly weapons. Little crew has 3 broken ribs, a broken shoulder, and dislocated hip.
Maloney said 1 punch.
That's all it was. 1 punch. A prowl car got there just as Maloney hit the little guy.
That's what Maloney said. He called it a strange coincidence.
The station got a call, riot in the streets. When they got there, no riot, just a fight between a little guy and a big guy.
Provocation?
All they saw was the punch.
Witnesses?
No.
Know anything about Crew, the complaining witness?
I told you, Herb. He's got 3 broken ribs, a broken shoulder.
Lieutenant, I mean, who is he? What does he do? Where does he come from? Just as an accommodation for me, would you mind checking back on little Mr. Carew and his 3 broken ribs?
You got me worried, Counselor.
Well, isn't that what you want?
Well, you're making me think I got the wrong guy in the wrong cell for the wrong thing.
At least I'm making you think. There was one more man I wanted to do some thinking and some talking. Malone's foreman.
Come on in. Howdy. Have a seat. You're the foreman of the Rock Maloney job, huh?
Yes, sir.
Why aren't you on the job?
Because our money was due at noon today and my men haven't been paid.
You mean Rock Maloney is defaulting?
You telling me you didn't know he's in jail?
I did hear something about that.
Mr. Marsden, didn't you hear your own lawyer lay a complaint of conspiracy and fraud?
What's that got to do with you?
My men want to know if you're taking over the job or not.
Our only interest is to get back the money that we loaned Maloney.
Well, that's all I wanted to know. If you had taken over this job and my men didn't get paid on time, we'd let your development sit out there with its girders down all year. Now, Rock Maloney's different. My men and I have worked maybe 20 jobs with Rock, and we think he's a pretty great guy. We're going to break our backs for the Rock, and we're going to have his development laid just like he was bossing the job.
Counselor, sit down. Alfred Crew is history. You want to hear a little about Alfred?
I would indeed.
Alfred Crew, residence of city, 1 month. Occupation uncertain. Visible means of support none. Comes from New Jersey. Was strangely involved in 2 automobile accidents in which his hip and shoulder were dislocated. That's 12 and 13 years ago. Interesting, huh?
Fascinating.
He recovered both times from insurance companies.
I imagine it was quite a surprise to him when he found he'd not only redislocated both his hip and his shoulder, but had 3 broken ribs as well.
I see you're with me, Counselor.
Breathing down your neck.
He also had a bank account. First 4 weeks, under 500. Suddenly, a little over 5,000. Lucky, I guess.
I wonder if you could arrange for me to interview your complaining witness, Mr. Alfred Carew.
Sure I can. Be my guest. City Hospital. I'll set it up here.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
You bet. Harry, I want you to arrange something for me, please. City Hospital.
Doctor, I'm sure glad you're here. I feel just awful.
I'm sorry you're in such pain, but I'm not a doctor.
Well, who are you? Nobody's supposed to come in here.
Well, I'm a lawyer. I represent Rock Maloney. Remember that brute that hit you without provocation?
Well, sure, but what?
I'm here to see if you're going to start a civil action.
Civil?
I mean damages. My client thinks you not only want to put him in jail, but you might also want to sue him for assault and battery. And I may say he's ready to settle.
That's all. How much?
Of course, that depends on the extent of your injuries. I understand you have a dislocated hip?
I sure have. Mister, the pain is something horrible.
And a dislocated shoulder?
Mister, the agony...
That's right. The pain of that shoulder must be something horrible.
I know what you're talking about.
You know perfectly well what I'm talking about. And I warn you not to lie when you get into court. you'll go to jail for perjury for a long, long time.
What about the 3 broken ribs? They weren't in the deal.
I understand you were amply paid for that. $5,000, wasn't it? Now, I trust you remember what I told you when you get to court. Crew took the bait. The question was, could Weston land him? Well, Lieutenant.
Hi. Been waiting long, Constable?
No, not too long.
Did you eat the cat that ate the canary?
More or less. I think our little complaining witness crew has finally recognized the embattled pennon of truth and justice. In fact, when he gets in the stand in the courtroom...
Thank you. No embattled whatchamacallit for Alfred Crew.
No?
Says he flew the coop. Broken ribs, broken shoulder, dislocated hip and all.
But he's got to go to the bank to get his money.
Well, that's where the information came from, the bank. We told them to notify us as soon as he came to pick up the money. So naturally, they told us after he got the money.
Great. Just great.
No perjuring complaining witness.
That's right, Lieutenant. No complaining witness. Goodbye, Lieutenant.
Like your manner, Maris. Not enough that the prosecutor here goes out of his way to have a meeting before the arraignment, but you have to be late.
Mr. Long, I apologize for being late. But I asked for this meeting before trial only to save you embarrassment.
Save me? But how?
You have no case.
No case? Criminal fraud, obtaining money under false pretenses, assault with a deadly weapon with intent to kill.
Mr. Marsden, would you kindly let me handle the legal part?
Then do the legal part.
Well, on the assault with the deadly weapon, I have ready in court the officers who came on the scene of the crime. And I have depositions from the attending physicians. And I have, of course, a deposition from the complaining witness, Mr. Alfred Crew, who was too seriously injured to attend the proceedings.
So seriously injured that he fled from the hospital under his own power, drew his money from a bank, and disappeared from town?
Gone?
Gone.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Well, I now understand our meeting here, and thank you. I shall naturally drop the deadly weapons charge.
Thanks, Mr. Long.
Mr. Marsden, how about your firm's claim? Criminal fraud, conspiracy to obtain money under false pretenses?
I think Mr. Marsden would be interested to know that the amount the witness withdrew from the bank was a little over $5,000.
Well, I withdraw my complaint of fraud and conspiracy.
I'm not sure my client doesn't wish to stand trial on these charges.
Now, cut the nonsense, Maris. You put me through a ringer. You and a certain foreman that works for Maloney there.
You mean you met old horse collar?
If that's your foreman, yes, I met him. I don't know how to say this. I'm ashamed. A little. I'll guarantee Maloney's original contract. I'll back it up personally.
Then if you don't mind, I won't go back to court. You'll quash the case without me?
Pleasure, Mr. Maris.
Maris?
Man Marsden. He's quite a guy.
Quite a guy.
He really saw the light of day.
I wonder, Lieutenant. Did he think about his own ethics, or does he know so much about human relationships that he just makes the best of a bad situation?
You know something, Constable?
Yeah. We'll never know.
you.